Hey there, so welcome to episode 2 of Google Autocomplete. In today's episode, we will be going over is Star Trek. So we're going to be going through each letter of the alphabet and see what it is, and I'll try answering them. Is Star Trek a space opera? Maybe? Star Wars is more of a space opera than Star Trek. So maybe it's more of a, because Voyager is more soap opera-ish than any of the other ones, though DS9 also has its elements. So I'll just say, I would say it's not necessarily a space opera, but it has, some of the later series does include elements. Is Star Trek a show or movie? Both. Socialist Utopia. Definitely in Next Generation in the original series for sure. The other series, starts showing the cracks in that utopia. Is Star Trek any good? Of course it's good. You think it's not good? Star Trek Beyond on HBO. I honestly don't know. Is Star Trek Beyond on DVD? It should be on DVD. It may not be on DVD yet, but it will be on DVD for sure. Is Star Trek based on a book? No. I believe it's a no. And notice I skipped the second one, that's because I'm coming back to it. Is Star Trek better than Star Wars? Well, that's really a personal preference, so I'm not answering that question. Is Star Trek communist? I wouldn't say communist. I think it's communism in an idealized form where all the flaws are gone, the need for a social or a revolution was no. Basically, Marx's theory of communism, no. It's like communism, but without the stuff that Marx said you need to do to get there, maybe. It's hard to say. It's definitely socialistic, but communistic? Good question. But there's definitely good examples of it. But let's talk about the next one. Is Star Trek Continues ending? Continues? I never even heard of it. Is Star Trek coming back to TV? Sort of. It's coming to CBS All Access, and then depending in the US, so somewhat. I don't know why they can't just put it on broadcast television like, normal television. And they can also have it on CBS All Access too, but they should have it on regular TV. Probably in syndication, hopefully. Is Star Trek Continues over? What Star Trek Continues? Is Star Trek Disney? No, that's Star Wars. Is Star Trek Discovery cancelled? In trouble? Well, it's just beginning. Maybe? I don't know. This is the first I've heard of it. Is Star Trek Discovery on Netflix? Not for the US. Probably will be once the first season is done before the second season begins. Is Star Trek Enterprise good? Yes, it is. Now you Trekkies are about to go in the comments and say, no, it's not. It's the worst one ever. Go check out my top 5 Star Trek television series. So it is good if you don't mind it. I think when valuing good, are you basing it off of what has come before, or based off of or based off of it? If I'm pretty sure if Enterprise is just Star Trek Enterprise, no Star Trek wasn't part of the Star Trek universe, I'm pretty sure people would just call it good. It's just like the Star Wars prequels. Both fans of both universes hate the prequels apparently. And yet there's these outliers like me who actually don't mind them. No, I think the Star Wars prequels are worse than Enterprise in my opinion. But anyhow, I think the reason why Enterprise is so hated among Trekkies is that they were measuring it to the other shows. Is Star Trek Enterprise on Netflix? Wouldn't surprise me. Is it canon? Star Trek Enterprise is canon. It's canon in both the main timeline and the Kelvin timeline. Is Star Trek Enterprise worth watching? Definitely watch it. Is Star Trek First Contact on Netflix? Wouldn't surprise me. Is Star Trek fantasy or science fiction? It's primarily science fiction, but there is some science fantasy and some fantasy. And because I'm not going to go to the next one, is Star Trek fantasy. It's not pure fantasy. It may have elements of fantasy, especially in DS9. So call it science fantasy, which is closer to what Star Wars is like. It's more science fiction than fantasy, but both are sci-fi. Is Star Trek fascist? It's more communist than fascist, but there are some communist and fascist elements in it. Is Star Trek good? Yeah? Why are you asking that? Is Star Trek Generations on Netflix? The movie? Wouldn't surprise me. Is Star Trek Online good? I have it on Steam. I have not played it yet. And that third one, crazy. How can a TV show have gender? Does not make sense. Or sexuality. Does not make sense. Characters can have it, but not a TV show. Just like Google can't have it. Really. People are asking some real questions on here. Is Star Trek hard sci-fi? What does that mean? It's sci-fi. Is Star Trek Horizon a real movie? I think that's a fan movie, a very good fan movie. I would not consider it a true movie. It may be based off of maybe some books, but it's not an authorized movie from what I know. I've watched some of it on YouTube. I would consider it a fan film, just like there's many Star Wars fan films out there. Is Star Trek holodeck possible? I hope so. I wish it would be possible. I'm not sure. Is Star Trek Into Darkness on Netflix? Wouldn't surprise me. In the future? Yes. The parts of it are in the past, but most of it's still in the future. Is Star Trek Into Darkness the first movie? In case you didn't hear, I facepalmed myself. It's not the first movie. The first movie was Star Trek the Motion Picture. Then, I'm not actually going to go into all the movies, but it's actually, 12th Star Trek movie produced and released. It's the second one of the Kelvin timeline. It's Star Trek J.J. Abrams. It was rebooted, and the other ones I'm not going to change. Janeway, it's not just Janeway. There's other captains too. Who is Star Trek Khan? That's not an is question, but I'm assuming they're referring to Khan, Uni, and Think. Is Star Trek liberal? I would say it definitely has liberal tendencies, but when you look at it, there are some what we would consider liberal now, in their society might be considered more conservative. Is Star Trek leaving Netflix? I don't know. Is Star Trek Legacy backwards compatible? Don't ask me, I don't know. What is Star Trek language? That's not a proper question in this sentence, so I'm not answering. Is Star Trek movie? Oh, it has 13 movies out. Is Star Trek the motion picture on Netflix? Maybe? I don't know. When is Star Trek movie on TV? Don't know. Is new Star Trek movie on DVD? It should be coming out on DVD. If it's not yet, it will be. Is Star Trek Next Generation good? Yes, it is. Is Star Trek Next Generation on Netflix? Wouldn't surprise me. Is Star Trek nerdier than Star Wars? Well, I'm gonna say yes, because you got Trekkies. What do Star Wars fans call themselves? Star Wars fans. We don't... Star Wars fans like me. I'm also a Star Trek fan, but I wouldn't consider myself a Trekkie yet. But Star Wars fans just call them Star Wars fans. We don't have a nickname like Trekkies. At least none that I know of. Is Star Trek Nemesis on Netflix? Wouldn't surprise me. Is Star Trek Online canon? I don't think so. I think it's just the movies and TV shows in the respective timeline. On Netflix? Wouldn't surprise me. Online cross-platform? Don't know. Down? I don't know. I haven't played it. Is Star Trek possible? Probably not. Popular in Japan? No clue. Public domain? Nope. It is not public domain. Is Star Trek Online play to win? Don't know. What is Star Trek Q? I'm presuming they're referring to Q, but the character Q, but that's not a proper question in this sense. Is Star Trek real? Unfortunately not. Is Star Trek racist? Not racist. Granted, they do seem to have a token black character. Kinda weird, but who knows what, but things too. Definitely maybe in the things, that in regards to actors, you gotta look at one thing in particular. The industry itself. But is Star Trek realistic? It's definitely more realistic than Star Wars. Is Star Trek Renegades canon? I never heard of Star Trek Renegades. Is Star Trek science fiction? Yes. Is it socialist? Definitely, in my opinion. Is Star Trek space opera? Not as much as Star Wars. Is Star Trek sexist? It's definitely male heavy, but again, look, like with the race, you gotta look at the industry at the times too. Because Star Trek definitely pioneered, because during the original series, having a African American actor as something like other than a maid was huge. And also the first interracial kiss on television, huge. So I wouldn't say they'll, so you gotta look at the industry in a big sense to determine, not just the show. You gotta look at the industry, and I would say the industry is suffering from racism and sexism, though it is improving. Is Star Trek the animated series worth watching? If you want a good laugh, it is, but other than that, not really. Is Star Trek The Next Generation good? Yeah, it is, definitely. Is Star Trek technology possible? Some of it is already reality. It's called touchscreens. Just like the phone I'm using right now to answer a message I just got. Is Star Trek answer that. Is Star Trek The Next Generation on Netflix? Perhaps none of these are you. Is Star Trek Voyager worth watching? Definitely. Is Star Trek Voyager on Netflix? Maybe. Good? It's definitely good. Any good? It's definitely good. Is Star Trek worth watching? Yeah, it is. Is Star Trek Warp Drive possible? Not currently. The closest NASA scientists are actually looking into it, and they do have a theory of warp drive technology, but it requires negative mass, while Star Trek used antimatter. So it's theoretically, actually, theoretically, warp drive is possible, though it may not be the same as Star Trek, how Star Trek presented it. But warp technology is theoretically possible. Granted, it would violate not of our standard conventions about physics, but there's still a lot we don't know. Is Star Trek Star Wars? No, they're clearly different. Though I do want to do a what is Star Trek met Star Wars. I actually might be doing that someday. Keep a look at it. Is Star Trek coming out with a new movie? Probably. Is Star Trek for Xbox 360 multiplayer? No clue. Is Star Trek Online on Xbox 360? I don't know. Why asking me? What is Star Trek Yahoo answers? That is not the proper question. It's is Star Trek Y? And for Z, is Star Trek Zachary Quinto? He wasn't there. Zoe and I'm not gonna pronounce that second one. I'm not sure. I think the actor was in it. Zephyr Cochrane? What is Star Trek Zephyr Cochrane? The inventor of warp drive technology in the Star Trek universe. Is Star Trek Larabeth? Don't even know what that is. Is Star Trek A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y and Z? Oh, when I do that, nothing pops up, but what actually does pop up is Star Trek's original series Wikipedia, Star Trek Wikipedia, Star Trek film series Wikipedia, Star Trek Next Generation on Family Guy, TechCrunch, and a bunch of other stuff, so there's nothing special. That concludes Google Autocomplete is Star Trek. So join me this Saturday where we'll be going over is I want to quickly apologize for any distortion you may have heard in this video. That's due to the cooling apparatuses I am using in my room, namely a fan, to keep me from boiling to death in this extremely hot weather I am dealing with at the current moment. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment down below. Check me out on social media, consider supporting me on Patreon, and feel free to visit my website and any of my other YouTube channels. Links are in the description down below. Subscribe to my channel for future Star Trek content. Have a good day or good night wherever you are. Live long and prosper.